And so it was just really interesting because he was saying I love you, but then didn't understand my sexuality. And then we ended up breaking up because he was like, when are you going to be ready? And I was like, I don't know. I told you about my sexuality. I have to have this emotional bond. And he's like, well, how long is that going to take? Which is such a weird question, right?
Yeah, because, like, you're not, like, longer now because you asked that. Like, tea is hot, and so are you. So grab a seat and let's review. Hi, Rogue.
Hey, Zax.
Today we're doing something a little different. And we get to know a lot about you today, so that's
Yay.
nice. Today we're talking about demisexuality. And before we get into the whole thing, I just want to throw out a few disclaimers. So we're talking largely about Rogue's experience, so we totally get that's not going to apply to every demisexual identifying person. And we're also going to be using different terms, like, around the asexual spectrum to keep in mind. So asexual, it means having virtually no sexual attraction. And allosexual is having sexual attraction. So we'll put our working definitions for these terms and anything else we say throughout the video in the description.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I guess let's just start. So what exactly does it mean to be demisexual?
So I'm actually going to pull the definition off of WebMD. Yay, WebMD for having the definition. So that it's a little bit more thorough than what I could give. Demisexual people only feel sexually attracted to someone when they have an emotional bond with the person. They can be gay, straight, bisexual, or pansexual, and may have any gender identity. The prefix demi means half, which can refer to halfway between sexual and asexual.
Okay, so the main thing, I guess, just to shorten it, is that, like, it's in the asexual spectrum, but you can have sexual attraction with the emotional bond.
Yes.
So
pretty much exclusively.
Like, you need that.
Yeah.
So I guess that the next thing, what exactly would, like, be the distinction between being demi and being allo? Just because I feel like there's lots of people who wouldn't just, like, have sex with a stranger that they just met or hardly know.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That was a question that I got from a lot of my friends. Or it wasn't even really a question, but it should have been phrased as one. That I got from a lot of my friends when I first, like, started realizing that I was demisexual and sort of started talking about it. Mm-hmm. I was trying to explain, I don't feel a sexual attraction unless I have an emotional connection. And a lot of my friends were like, oh yeah, I don't sleep with strangers. And I'm like, that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't just hook up, but and that's fine. Obviously, there's plenty of people who would prefer to get to know someone before. Right. But it's really hard to explain, especially if you don't really have, like, a concept. I can understand that it's hard to wrap your mind around because it is kind of a difficult concept.
Right.
But it's really like you just have an emotional bond with someone and then you feel the sexual attraction. So it's not like, oh, that guy is really attractive and I want to date him and stuff and do stuff.
Yeah.
That never really happened. It was always like, for the most part, friends first and then dating and then sexual attraction. Maybe.
Yeah.
Not even all the time that happened.
Okay. So, yeah. So basically, like, for lack of a better way to put this, it's kind of just about, like, what gets people's motors running. Because, like, some people, like, you could just see, like, oh, that person's hot. If the stars aligned, we'd smash. But, like, in your case, no. There's
exactly.
no... Yeah, okay.
Or, like, a friend group that I had in college would be like, oh, it would be playing Truth or Dare or whatever, and I'd be like, who in the room would you sleep with? And people would answer, and I'd be like, nobody, because I don't really have that connection with anybody. And they didn't understand that. So
yeah. No, and I get that. It is interesting. I feel like that's just something in like the asexual community a lot, where people don't, because like, and on one hand I get it because, you know, allosexual is the majority, so people are like, everyone feels this way, everybody poops, everybody gets aroused, kind of thing.
And that's actually one of the, like, basic psychological needs. What used to be included, I don't know if it's probably hasn't been updated, but one of the basic psychological needs in the pyramid is, Maslow's hierarchy. There we go. Got it. So psychological needs are at the bottom. Safety needs, belongingness. So it used to say, it says intimate relationships. I think it said specifically like sex at one point. But yeah, even like when I was in college, we were going over this in one of my classes, and I was like, no, I don't think that should be part of the pyramid anymore.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because like, you know, someone else could take that and be like, oh no, I broke it, or something has been unfulfilled, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So that's why it's always good to learn more. So demisexual, attraction based on an emotional bond. How is that different from being bi or pansexual, where like it's like, oh, you know, it's just the person, it doesn't really matter like if they're a boy or a girl, I just like the person?
Well, you can be demi and pansexual, but yeah, it just goes back to that like emotional bond. It's kind of like there's different forms of love, you know? And like you love your friends different than you love your family, different than you love your partner. Yeah. It's a different type of an emotional bond that you form with someone. That, like, the reason it's so hard to describe is because it's not like I have this type. Because I think maybe you can speak more to this, but I think pansexuals, like, they even have types. It doesn't matter the gender necessarily, but it's just like, I like this in a person.
Yeah, because I think it's, I mean, I guess, and it probably goes with like every sexual orientation, like, you know, I guess gender, but like, you're just like, I like long hair or short hair or muscles or, okay. So.
And I can, like, obviously, I still have physical attraction too. So there's that, I guess, foundation is physical attraction. But as far as types go, it's just like, it might just surprise me, you know, those emotional bonds that I form with people. Yeah.
I guess just to like sort of clarify that a little bit, just so like you have physical attraction to you. Do you mean just like, it's not like in the sense of like, you're not blind, you can see somebody be like, oh yeah, they're attractive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's just not like you said earlier, it's not necessarily like, oh, but I want to really jump into bed with them, you know? It's just like, oh, they're attractive.
Right, yeah. Okay, cool. And I think that's, just from other asexual identified people I've talked to, that's something that's been mentioned. Because I don't know if, I think TV makes asexuality seem really, like, robotic.
Yeah, in a way. For sure.
Because that was one thing that was, like, we don't have to spend too much time, but I was really interested in Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory's asexuality on the show.
Yeah.
Even though, and like, I feel like it's one of the things they sort of stayed a little true to throughout, because even though he did start having sex with his partner, but it was very clearly like just for her kind of a thing. And he's like, I didn't mind it as much as I thought I would, but it's still nothing he like needs. But I feel like early on in the show, everyone was like, oh, you're like not even a person, because he would just like have conversations with beautiful women and everyone was like really confused that he wasn't like losing his mind, which is like, and that might just go more into like toxic masculinity in TV than
I think it has
sexuality.
A lot of issues. It goes into a lot of things.
Yeah. Like, yeah, the whole gambit of problematic stuff to put out in the world. Okay, so how old were you when you realized that you were Demi?
Let's see. I was in college, so probably 22, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because like I hadn't actually asked the age before. I'd always pictured like high school or something. So that's interesting.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even know. I would venture to say I didn't even know what asexuality was in college or in high school.
Okay.
At least not middle of high school. Maybe by the end.
Yeah. And would you say finding out it was like a whole process, or was it just kind of like a Google search?
Well, okay. So this group of friends that I had was like super heteronormative. They weren't homophobic or at least, I don't know. It's hard to describe the whole dynamic, but it was like heteronormative. Like they were okay with we had a couple of lesbian friends in our group, and they were okay with them because they were lesbians. And then one of the girls in our group was like hetero flexible, and they were okay with that because she was kissing girls, you know? So it was like, okay. And then
but like if two guys started canoodling,
I have one of my best friends that I've had since high school is gay, and he started kind of hanging out with us, and I had to like debrief them and be like, you can't make gay jokes around him that are derogatory because he's gay. Like,
right.
So
yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
Friend groups to have.
They did good though. They did do good, but and I think he kind of opened their eyes a little bit.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah.
And one of the people in that friend group later, like within the past couple years, came out too. So
that's cool.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's something too. Like, I don't really judge people like for being like too heteronormative, you know, because especially if you're not like around a lot of people, you kind of just like are used to what's around.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were all in college. Everyone was kind of figuring themselves out, and college as a whole, I hope it's changing now, but still when I was in college as a whole was pretty heteronormative too, so
like, you mean like in the classes kind of thing?
No, I mean just like the culture of the college students, like frat boys and sorority girls and going to parties and there's only 3 girls at this party, like, you know.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah. So that was my friend group. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, they were like, oh, if you could sleep with anyone in the room, whatever. That kind of stuff all the time. And I was just like, meh. And I don't know, I just went through this really kind of deep depression at this point in my life. Where I don't know, like, hanging out with them made me sad because they all seemed really normal, and I was like, I don't have any of these feelings, and so something must be wrong with me. Right. And they're all like finding certain girls attractive, and nobody's saying anything about me, and that made me feel really awful too. And I don't know, self-esteem issues, plus I was like, why am I not finding anyone attractive? Why do I not have this desire to get with people? And I asked one of my best friends, I told him about it, and he was like, you just need to get laid. And I was like, that was the worst possible response you could have given me.
Yeah, the problem is that you don't want to, and you don't know why.
And I was just like, that's harder than than you make it sound. And he told me, you just need to lower your standards.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, thank you. Cool. So, yeah, that was rough. And then I don't even remember exactly what happened. I was thinking, like, maybe I'm asexual. Because I'm not, like, nothing's going on, you know?
Right.
And then, I don't know what happened. I mean, I realized that I did have, like, sexual attraction to the friend that told me you should just get laid. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not asexual, but, like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Right.
So, I don't know how I came across the term demisexual. I kind of almost want to say it was in someone's, like, character information on a roleplay that I saw or something. And I was like, oh, demisexual, what's that? And I Googled it, and as soon as I read, like, emotional bond to experience sexual attraction, it was like something clicked.
Right.
And everything made so much sense.
Yeah. Okay.
It was crazy how immediately I just identified it with it.
Yeah, no, that's really... Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something we'll probably talk about more just, like, in labels in general kind of thing. Because I think we talked a little bit before we started about, like, the whole, like, demi versus, like, gray sexual and stuff. And I think, you know, with how it clicked for you makes it important that there is that distinction, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, gray sexual just means, like, you're kind of in between being allo and ace, and just sometimes but you do have, like, sexual feelings sometimes, but there's no, like, real prerequisite sort of kind of thing. Okay, so I guess starting from when you found this out about yourself to now, would you say you keep it to yourself mostly, or is it something you're, like, really vocal about?
I literally tell pretty much everyone I can.
Yeah.
About it, because I feel like more people need to know and they need to understand what it is. Because when I was still, I'm in a relationship now, but when I was still dating, I was, like, in this kind of depression, anxiety cycle of not having anyone. So, I was on Tinder. A horrible decision for a demisexual person.
Yeah, I guess, swipe. Can't really swipe your feels.
Yeah. So, I put in my profile demisexual. Nobody knew what it meant. So, I tell everyone, basically, yeah, except for my family. There's a whole thing there, but...
Yeah. But that's, you know, that's that. But,
yeah.
Would you say it's, like, easy to explain to your friends, or just... Is it kind of...
My first friend group, my best friend gets it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But aside from that, they didn't really get it. The guy that I was dating at the time, when I I don't know if I was dating him or I had just found out right before I started dating him, but he didn't get it at all, and that was rough. Because I did not feel an emotional... We met on OkCupid, so there's my first problem. He's, like, the first guy that I dated that I hadn't been friends with first. And, so I think that partially played into it, maybe, but I don't know if I would have ever formed an emotional bond with him, honestly. But yeah, he was, like, he wanted to be intimate a lot, and I was like, I'm not feeling it. And it actually ended up being the reason we broke up, because I told him once, I was like, I'm demisexual, I don't even get turned on unless I feel an emotional connection. And I can understand when you're dating someone and they say, I don't have an emotional connection with you, that can be kind of hard. But we had only been dating for, like, 2 or 3 months. And we had only known each other for 2 or 3 months. And so he was just on a different level than he was like saying, I love you. And I was like, I feel like I hardly know you. Who are you? And so it was just really interesting because he was saying, I love you, but then didn't understand my sexuality. And then we ended up breaking up because he was like, when are you going to be ready? And I was like, I don't know. I told you about my sexuality. I have to have this emotional bond. And he's like, well, how long is that going to take? Which is such a weird question, right?
Yeah, because, like, you're not, like, longer now because you asked that. Like, that, that is interesting. That makes me think of this, like, I don't know why I was in the 5th grade watching The Hills, but go off, I guess. But it reminds me of, there's this episode where they're, like, reminiscing about high school, which also seems so, like, weirdly forced considering, like, we also saw that show, Laguna Beach, before The Hills. But they were all sitting around, and they, you just reminded me of this, they're sitting around, and they're like, do you remember how, like, even if you were a good girl, like, at 6 months, you, like, gave it up, and, like, you just, like, had to. That was just, like, the thing. Which, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting, like, I think that those sorts of thoughts are kind of going away, but for a long time, I feel like it was, in TV, there was just, like, this norm where it's like, okay, after, like, the 3rd date for adults, or, like, 6 months for teens, or whatever, there are, like, these benchmarks, and then it's okay to have sex, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is just interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I just told him, he was like, well, how long is that going to take? And I was like, well, I don't know. It might never happen. And then he said, we should break up. And I was like, okay. And, like, I guess you were saying you love me, but
yeah, like, not that much. Well, he loved you a little bit.
Not enough to, like, wait it out and see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, like, I mean, I don't even think he could, like, have a Tamagotchi with this impatience, honestly, but anyway, so, quick plug for our Discord server, I guess. A while ago,
always be plugging.
Yeah, we were, like, all talking. I think Yella actually brought up this anti-Ace episode of no, he brought up the YouTuber who brought up this episode of House. I'll link it in the bio because it's just very interesting.
It's rough.
Yeah. So, okay, basically House, and I have never seen the show. This is all I know about it. I'm like, why did people like this?
It's a pretty bad introduction to the show, honestly.
I'm thinking about just lots of things on our channel. Bad introduction to Sonic for me. Just like, I'm not getting good, informed introductions to things. But, okay, so in this House episode, this guy is like, for some reason, and I'm like, what about, like, HIPAA, I guess, but, like, I guess you're all doctors, so it's okay, but this still seems like
no,
rude.
It's okay.
Like,
because here's the thing with HIPAA. If you're not directly involved with the case, you're not supposed to, like, if there's one doctor that has a patient, he can't share that with other doctors unless it's, like, a collaboration thing. But you can't just go around and, like, share it just because they're all doctors.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to just, like, I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth or anything like that. Okay, so, that's what I thought. So, he's, like, having coffee with this doctor. This doctor's like, whoa, no way, you'll never believe what just happened. This patient of mine is asexual. And House is like, that doesn't exist. I'll bet you, like, whatever, like, some monetary amount. I want to say, like, either $1 or $100. Either way, really weird bet to make over some guy you don't even know. But then he meets him, and this man is married. They're in an asexual but hetero romantic relationship, and he does these tests, and he's like, oh, you have this pituitary gland problem, and that's why you don't have a sex drive. Yeah. And it's like, but life, what? She was asexual too. Nope, she was lying about it, because which I'm like, honestly though, like, I mean, goals, I guess. Willing to put up this whole fake facade so your husband feels good about being
I guess
ace.
so.
But there are lots of ace people with allo partners, and the allo partners are just like, yeah, I get that just isn't, like, it for you. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, but I still love you and don't want to be with anybody else kind of a thing. And, like, you can make it work however you make it work privately. And that's fine, but that's not the case here because, you know, Dr. House fixes them and they can just go hump like rabbits now. Yay. And so that's one example. Then in prepping for this, I remembered there was this episode of Scandal where this guy, because she's a political fixer, and he's like, I need people to vote for my baby brother. And he's, like, running for, like, I want to say, like, Senate or mayor or governor. I don't know, but, like, a not mayor, pretty big office for this wealthy family of politicians. So, whatever. But anyway, he doesn't have, like, a wife or a girlfriend or anything. And it turns out that the reason he's single is because he's sleeping with his brother's wife, but he doesn't want to cheat on her.
Wait. Okay.
Okay, but that's the big reveal at the end. I felt I should just get that out of the way now. But before that, she says, like, look, I can help you. If you're gay, I can help you win. Like, he's like, I'm not gay. And then she's like, look, people just will not vote for you if you're ace, basically. Like, they're just not going to get it. And, like, that's voters, like, they're not going to get it. So.
Okay. I don't.
And then, like, and from, like, a political race thing, like, I get, like, why, although representation, he could be the first race guy, but I don't think he'd be okay with that either, because if brother's wife does eventually leave him for him, then that's probably a worse scandal. I don't know. For the ace community, at least. I don't know. There's so many things in that I don't even know what to do. But the reason I bring all that up is because asexuality is, like, really confusing for a lot of allosexual people. So do you think people have an easier or harder time understanding demisexuality in your experience?
Harder time than what?
Asexual, like if you're asexual, but okay, because I guess I'm asking because you have sex sometimes,
yeah,
with the emotional bond kind of thing.
Well, I don't know, because in my current friend group, like, I don't know, they're all younger than me for the most part. Mm-hmm. We're all adults, but, like, they're still, like, closer to Gen Z than millennial, I think. So right. I think they're a little bit more open and understanding, and also just not as judgmental about that kind of thing. So we don't ever really talk about it. Like, I told them, yeah, I'm demisexual, and my friend was like immediately, oh, so does that mean you're attracted to guys and girls? I was like, yeah, like anybody that I form an emotional connection with. And they were like, oh, okay. And that was, like, the end of the conversation.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that is... Yeah, no, I guess that is just sort of, like, how times are changing, that it does make things easier in that way. Mm-hmm. Although I do think a lot of people's... especially if people aren't, like, open from the jump, like, because some people just, like, might not think that they're asexual, because especially just because I don't feel like finding a partner forever, I don't think it's just this big priority that it used to be, I feel like, in everything. So I definitely can see it be easier to just, like, sort of go your whole life without any of those feelings and not really think anything of it. Like, maybe a little bit, but just kind of like, well, I guess that's just not my thing. And then not really knowing that you're ace. But I still think people with that person who, like, hasn't, like, had sex or whatever, being like, oh, we'll match make for you. Yeah. We'll have this and that happen.
Well, and, like, that being said, where, like, this friend group is really understanding and I don't want to say doesn't care, but it's just, like, not an important conversation to them, I guess, which is great. I think that's perfect. That's how it should be. Right. For that friend group, my friend group, not even my friend group, just the people I worked with. Mm-hmm. Back when I worked at Chick-fil-A, so this should give you an idea of the culture. Yeah. There was someone who worked in the kitchen who was asexual, and all of the kitchen guys gave him a hard time, and they were like, oh, like a plant? You're a plant? You could reproduce asexually? And I'm like, you all are idiots. I don't know how... I don't know how many straight up lectures I gave to my Chick-fil-A coworkers about sexuality. And they were, for the most part, surprisingly open about listening, but yeah, I still had to give a lot of lectures.
It didn't, like, immediately inform their behavior that you could tell.
Well, that was before. I was like, listen, asexuality it's different than asexually reproducing.
I picture someone, like, waiting for their chicken nuggets while you, like, pull out this whiteboard, like, look, okay, let's just hammer this out right here, right now.
This is more important.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So, back in those days, I don't know how harder or easier it would have been for them to understand, but...
Yeah. Okay. Just thought I'd put it out there. Okay, so... This is, I guess, something I kind of want to spend, like, a lot of time talking about, because it is the most, not even confusing, it's just the part I'm most curious about. So emotional connection, is that, like, love, or what exactly would you describe this emotional connection as?
That is really hard to put into words, because, like I was saying earlier, like, you have different forms of love for different people in your life. You also form different kinds of emotional connections to different people in your life. So, I have been what I thought was love, anyway, at the time, with people, but didn't feel that emotional connection. Right. And I've also formed emotional connection to people where I'm like, but I don't think I love them romantically. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, with certain friends or something, I felt that emotional connection, but it's not like I want to be in a relationship with them, you know?
Yeah. And that's, like, fair. I guess, would you, like, I guess the next couple questions just get really invasive. Sorry. That's okay. But, so, like, with the emotional connection, I know you said, like, with the one guy who was like, come on, chop chop, how long's it gonna take? Okay, but has it, like, sort of been the opposite with other people, like, just sort of one good conversation and it's just like, oh, I feel it kind of thing?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I have to at least know the person a little bit. Because that one guy, it was like, who are you? I don't know you.
Right.
So, if he had stuck it out, then maybe it would have happened, but I don't know. But then another guy that I dated, and this, I want to be clear for people listening, I have only been in relationships with guys, but that I would be in relationships with people of other genders if I felt it just wouldn't be okay in my current situation. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay. So just for full, like, disclosure, as I do identify as, I guess, pan-romantic demisexual. But yeah, I guess the fastest I felt it is the guy that I'm currently dating.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together for a few months, but we never really talked at work about things other than work stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I still got to see him interacting with people and with the kids and whatever.
Yeah.
And then we did go to a couple parties outside of work, but even then it was I can laugh about it now. We went to this one party at a friend's house and we had left our cars at work, both of us, and so we got a ride back and we were both too messed up to drive still, but we sat in our separate cars and we had just been at this party together. I was like, why didn't you come over and be like, hey, do you want to hang out and talk while we sober up? Like, I don't know.
That's very cute, though. Okay, so have you ever had sort of the opposite, like, there's a person and you're like, oh my gosh, you're kind of like the worst, but somehow I still feel this connection with you?
No, never.
No. Okay.
No.
Just wanted... Okay.
I have very strong convictions and reasons of why I don't like people, and I don't think that would ever happen.
Okay. Yeah, knowing you, that makes sense. Okay. Not in a bad way.
Yeah, no. No,
okay.
I'm glad that makes sense.
Okay. Alright. So then, this isn't really even about you. Just in general, I just feel like, because we've already sort of talked about how, like, you form different connections with different people, and so obviously, like, you haven't been sexually attracted to, like, every person you formed an emotional connection with. It's
right,
like
exactly. So, I want to be clear that when I say that you form different kinds of emotional bonds, this isn't saying, like, I only form emotional bonds with people that I want, or I guess vice versa. Like,
right.
The emotional bond only forms then, in that moment. I form other emotional bonds, they're just different.
Yeah.
So,
but it's
like,
not just like, oh wow, you're like really great, we click. I guess I'll add you to the list of
right.
partners. And then I guess just like, since we're talking about it, and like we've talked about this in other like episodes and stuff, but about the friend zone as a concept. And I think with I feel like, I don't know, I feel like because of your identifying as demisexuality, I feel like people would get mad at you about the friend zone a lot more.
Yeah.
Because, because like, if you have because it's like, I'm such a good friend to you, I'm so, like, we're, like, I feel so close to you, and, like, I know you care about me, too, so, like, why isn't it, like, clicking?
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, so, for those who don't know, what... I think people typically know, like, the term friend zone, but it's the idea that once someone, typically a girl, because people are misogynistic, but once someone sees you as a friend, then they will not date you no matter what, because they only see you as a friend and not a romantic interest, which is an insane theory. I don't know how it's gotten this far. I guess it kind of goes along with the idea of, and I hate this theory too, the idea that males and females can't be platonic friends without feeling some sort of sexual attraction. That one doesn't make any sense either, but...
Yeah, I guess, because, like, it's weird, too, because especially I feel like people who say things like that literally have a best friend of the opposite sex. Because it's also weird, too, because it's also just, like, really heteronormative. Because, like, I guess gay people just don't talk to anybody.
Exactly. Well, I mean... It's heteronormative, but then think about how a lot of heteronormative people think of how gay people are. They're like, oh, they just sleep with any guy. I hope, don't try to sleep with me, you know? So...
Yeah, like, that was one thing, like, okay, for everything, like, I mostly have bad things to say about the new Degrassi, because old Degrassi was, like, slightly better, still had its own problems, but one thing I really thought was, like, I felt like it was, they had more, like, making people, like, characters, and, like, they had more stuff going on than, like, their issue of the week kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so one of the most iconic things about Degrassi, in case you don't know, is that Marco, he came out as gay, and he was, like, the first gay character on the show. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that includes, like, the old, or if that was just this generation, or if it was Degrassi's franchise.
Wait, is that the new... You're talking about the new generation?
I'm talking... Okay, so
like
there's...
the current one?
No, I'm talking about Degrassi, the next generation. The one that me and Aaron talk about is Degrassi, the next class, or something. Okay. So...
Got it.
Okay. So one thing
I do think the next generation had the first gay character on Degrassi. I think that was like a franchise-wide thing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because, like, you know, that actually makes sense. They actually did a really cute recreation video of, like, when Marco came out, where, like, they got the same actors, but now they're, like, 30 or whatever. And they redid the scene, and, like, it was really cute. But anyway... So, Marco comes out to Spinner, and then, like, it's really serious and really heavy. And then there's this other episode where Jimmy's having a sleepover, and obviously Marco's invited because they've been bros. And Spinner's like, no. Like, he can't come anymore, because, like... And Spinner's just really convinced that Marco's into him. And then Marco's like, you're not even that hot. I don't like you. Like that. And then and then it was really cute, because then it just ends with Spinner like, okay. Like, because then he realizes I've been an idiot, but then, like, they get playful, because he's like, well, agree to disagree. And he starts, like, talking himself up, like, you should be romantically interested in me for these reasons. And it's like, it's cute. But whatever. But, like, with that was just, like, a fun little tangent I like to talk about. But back to the friend zone, I think it's really, it's weird that people feel owed a sexual relationship. Because, like, because if it's like unrequited love sucks. Not saying it doesn't. However, if, like, you really like this person, and it's like, I like spending time with them, and I would do anything for them, I wish they would just see me in that way, but they don't, then, like, maybe you should, like, I don't think it's, because then also shows make it weird where you have to, like, punish the other person. Like, they friend them, so I need to pull back, and, like, they're gonna see how much they need me, which, like, I think you should, if, like, you want to change your feelings. I think it is good to pull back a little bit, like, get some time, like, I need to get over you for a bit. And I don't even really think it's that bad to just tell them, like, look, I like you. I don't really think you like me in that way. So just, like, so you know, I'm going to be backing up a bit, because I just want to kind of get over you. And then maybe we can hang out later, or just drift apart naturally. You don't have to say all that. But, like, basically, but when they're, like... Okay. I just wanted to check that I was still recording. I don't know why I got scared at that point.
I know. I do that every now and then, too.
Yeah. So... It's just... I don't know. Because, like you were saying, the friend zone definitely does seem misogynistic. But, like, because in the 80s, it kind of, like, with Some Kind of Wonderful, they sort of have the girl version, but... It's still pretty misogynistic if you think about it, because Eric Stoltz has two friends. One's Leah Thompson, and the other friend, I want to say her name might be Mary something.
Okay. Not anyway, super important.
Yeah. So Leah Thompson's the girl that he's, like, head over heels in love with. She's beautiful. She's, like... pretty much it. And I think it's fun that the movie like, that's kind of the moral, like he just kind of had this crush on her because she's beautiful. But then his best friend Mary is just his best friend, and then in the end she's like, Leah Thompson's like, oh no, I think you're actually in love with your best friend, and then they get together, and it's just kind of, and like, it's sort of put out that like now he like realized like, oh, she's beautiful too.
Yeah.
So like, and that kind of goes with that whole like ponytail.
Let your hair down, take off the glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing. So I do like, I don't like the friend zone because of what's associated with it. I do think you kind of put people in categories by default, like that's my friend, and like maybe that's someone I want to be with or not, you know, or like in the same way, like that's my brother. But I don't know. That's like I don't think it's like the.
I kind of think it's like by saying she only sees me as a friend, I got put in the friend zone. If she didn't see me as a friend, we would be together. I think that's what's harmful about it, because I'm like, or maybe you wouldn't, like, which came first, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it's like when people are like, I see you as you're like a sister or you're like a brother, so that's why I'm like, that's okay, that's how it is. They just don't see you in a romantic way.
Yeah.
It's not that like, they put you there because you didn't act fast enough or whatever.
Yeah. Like, there, like, I don't know, and I, like, there are people that, like, I'm, like, friends with, and, like, really close, where it does just, like, I guess I never really thought about it till I started thinking about the friend zone more, but there are people where it's, like, we're not related in any way. If we wanted to date, it'd be fine and socially, well, I'm married now. Probably not that. Like, not that
unless you talk to Bob first.
Yeah, we worked it out. But anyway, so, but still, like, the thought of, like, kissing them or anything is really weird. Because, like, I just don't see them like that. Don't know if this was the best place for it, but I wanted to put our 2 cents about the friend zone into the universe.
No, I think it's good because I do think that there have been situations in which people have been into me and I just don't. And it's not even like it's not even like a demisexual thing. It's just like a normal, I just don't feel it. Like any other person has the choice to say if they do or don't feel it.
Yeah.
And yeah. And that's another thing that is interesting. I don't know if you've been in situations like this, but a bunch of my coworkers were like, when are you and this person gonna get together? When are you guys gonna get together? And I'm like, never. And stop saying that because you're gonna get his hopes up. Because I know that he's really into me and I'm not. And you need to stop saying that because that's like putting pressure on me. It's getting his hopes up and I don't need any of that because we were friends. Yeah. And then it's like uncomfortable because then I have to be like, well, yeah, we can go to lunch, but I need to make it clear that this is not a date. You know?
Yeah, that's it. You know, I haven't had any experiences like that just because, like, the lines of work I've been in have been, like, older woman, married women, like, kind of thing. So, like, everybody sort of just settled. So there was no, like, hijinks. Like that. One of the jobs I had was at a family daycare, so that was just literally me and my boss.
Oh yeah.
There was no dating pool. Okay, so now I guess we'll move gears again. And so we've already talked about like how you're not blind, you can see that people are good looking or not to you. Would you say that like have you ever formed an emotional bond with any fictional characters?
No. I mean, I think that a lot of people relate to fictional characters. I have like my favorites for whatever reasons, but I don't think that I've been like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing too. Like, because like, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about fictosexuality in a little bit. But before that, I think that's why I ship so much, because like I don't really want to date like Captain America or Tony Stark. But I watched the show and I'm like, oh wow, like I see there's so much tension here.
Well, I think it's kind of that's why you ship. That's why people write fan fiction, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's fine and whatever. That's normal.
Yeah. So in like prepping for this video, we saw like on the LGBTA wiki, it has like a lot of information about like a lot of sexualities. Included in the A spectrum is fictosexuality, which is the sexual attraction to fictional characters.
Yeah, I just, it's interesting to me. It is an umbrella term. There's a bunch of sexualities underneath the umbrella, and I feel weird being scrutinizing when I have kind of I identify as a kind of a unknown sexuality, but and smaller group that identify as my sexuality, but I'm like, when's the point when we stop needing labels for some of these things? And it's just because I think the only time you would need, because here's my thing, my thing with sexuality labels is I don't care. I think it would be great if we didn't have to use labels. I understand why we need to, because it's easy. Well, first of all, the whole heteronormative thing, but then it's also easier to say I'm demi instead of being like, I only find emotional attraction to people I have, whatever. Sexual attraction to people I have emotional connection with. Like, that's, it's easier to just be like, I'm demi. But like, when you have such a niche sexuality, and especially one when it's fictional characters, because how many people are you going to be explaining it to? Because if you're asexual, especially if you're aromantic asexual, you're probably not going to be like telling them I'm gamosexual, like whoever's interested in you. You're just going to be like, I'm asexual or aromantic. So I don't know, maybe you will, but then you just have to explain what it is anyway.
Yeah, I guess that is something too, because like we were talking about this a little bit in the like while we were just talking about it with labels in general. I definitely feel like they're a blessing and a curse, because like blessing, if you're feeling like you saw it and you're like, oh, I identify with that, it clicks, great, I am not alone. Curse, I didn't really think about this too harsh, and like, if anybody in the comments wants to weigh in, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because it's just very interesting to me. I feel like and probably in other categories as well, but just I noticed it with the fictosexual wiki, it feels a little gatekeepy. In that, like, so fictosexual, you're attracted to fictional characters. However, there's like visual sexual, if you're like into visual novels, spectrosexual, you're into ghosts, necosexual, like that sort of thing. There's one that's for books, and there's one that's for live action fictional characters. And at that point, it's interesting to me, because I can almost envision this conversation happening where somebody's like, I love PETA, and then somebody's like, oh, from the book? No. And then they're like, no, that's not valid, you just like Josh Hutcherson or something, as an example. And it's just, I don't know if, like, I guess I don't know why. Like, on one hand, I get wanting labels, and I think that that's good to pursue, but at the same time, I don't see why fictosexual isn't enough. I guess I'm just, like, I don't know why it matters if it's fictional from an anime or from a video game. I'm not trying to sound insensitive. I just don't understand
it's
why.
a genuine question, not
not like these
not
like,
trying to poke holes or anything.
Yeah. Hopefully the rest of this conversation shows that, but just in case, I'll just say that too.
I'd also be, because there's also multi-fictino, which is a mix of fictional characters. So, the example they give is exclusively to anime and cartoon characters, which that's another one. It's so you do have to differentiate between anime and cartoons. That's seems a little gatekeepy too.
Yeah, is that, because there are, and there are other, branches in, other sexualities. There's, I want to say it's agaric, which is kind of like sapphic, but I guess more specifically it's women loving women or non-binary women more specifically kind of thing. And it's I get that. That's helpful enough. At the same time, I guess I don't know. Maybe what I'm missing is that I don't see why it's so important to disclose everything to people,
right. That's I guess that's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah.
You're probably not I think it would be helpful maybe to close friends or your family or whatever, whoever you're comfortable. But if it's just someone who's showing interest in you, you'll probably just tell them you're asexual, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but
I mean, maybe you won't. I don't know.
But I guess if it is just or if it is just a label just for your personal knowledge, then I get obviously I don't think any of this is harming anyone, so I don't think it's bad.
Right.
Unless it is actually gatekeepy, then maybe that's not the best. But I guess we'll just leave it there. And like I said, if you have any comments you want to leave in the video or join our server.
Or in our Discord server, yeah.
Yeah.
Please inform us.
Yeah. Because, I'd love to talk with you about it. But anyway. Okay. So, back to you, more specifically. So, do you watch pornography?
Yes.
Is it... So I think that's one of the things with
it's
most
very confusing for people, yes.
Right. Because even with, people that are... I guess that might be where it makes more sense for an asexual person than for a demisexual person. Because, with an asexual... Obviously, I'm being very short. But it's you just, had an urge, quick fix, whatever, bye, kind of thing. But in your case, it's
yeah, but it's hard. It is, because demisexuality is still a gray asexuality. So,
right.
I don't know. Sometimes I get horny,
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm not saying you need to justify it. I guess I was just curious because of the emotional bond. I wonder if it'd be the kind of thing where people are do you need to look up backstory on the actors involved? What it is involved. But okay. And then okay. Well, we kind of covered that one, so we can skip that question. But anyway.
Oh wait, but I want to talk about it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I didn't describe it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay. Do you have a type physically?
Okay, so I've always said that I like blondes, but I've never dated someone who's blonde.
Interesting.
So, I mean, I think part of it is the part of the country I live in is there's not a lot of blonde people here, but I think that
move
just
to Oklahoma. There's only blonde people here. I'm kidding.
I'm good.
I'm kidding.
But it just goes back to my point before where I'm like I can say I have a type, but it obviously doesn't matter that much.
I think that is one thing too that I think I know that there are people who are I'm this is my type, you need to be like 6'5",
right?
blah 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 kind of thing, and like that's like it. But I feel like most people, even if they have a type, it's kind of like
they're flexible.
Yeah, like a lot of people like have a type and then they marry someone like the total opposite,
right?
Or, you know, have like a long-term relationship with someone who's
which, by the way, I'm really tall. I'm 5'10", and my boyfriend is really tall, and that just happened by chance. Which is good, because I've definitely dated guys shorter than me. Which is fine. Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. It's just awkward sometimes in terms of, like, mechanics.
I get that, yeah. I'm very short.
Yeah, you don't have that problem.
It's really weird, too, because this is I guess it's not really my story to tell, but I think it's very funny. Bob was telling some friend about, like, us being a thing, and then he was like, oh yeah, you like short girls, and he was like, no, and then he was like, oh well, how tall is she? And then like he disclosed my height, and he was like, yeah, see, you like short girls.
I told you did.
Yeah, I knew that about you. And then I think it's also funny too, because this is one thing and this is kind of like the opposite, but I've heard like people say like, oh, like basketball players, they always like really short girls. And it's like, I mean, do they, or is that just like inevitable?
Yeah, exactly. like normal sized people look short next to them.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Bob was showing me this picture of the Rocks standing next to Shaq, and he looks like a little baby. Yeah, I was like, what is going on? And
Shaq
then, like,
is a giant. He's just a straight up giant.
Yeah, like, gosh, I would love to be Shaq for a day. Like, I just would. Oh my gosh. But then me and Shaq, our Freaky Friday movie, and then he realizes, like, oh, you know what, actually, I'd rather be tall, so, like, no thank you. And then I'm like, no. I'm gonna stay Shaq, bye.
If you got a picture next to Shaq, it would be like the picture of, like, world's tallest woman next to world's smallest man.
Yeah.
It'd be like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Or you could sit on his shoulders and you could be one super person.
Oh my gosh. Me and Shaq Voltroning it up. I'm
yes.
in. Okay. Somebody make that something.
We'll commission one of our artists to do it. One of our channel artists.
Yeah. Just do that. Like, that's the thumbnail for this, unrelated to anything. Okay, anyway. The last question to just sort of cover all our bases, I think. We did pretty good. So being a romantic demisexual, is it just like a matter of finding a partner? Or are there any like hardships that you feel are like specific to your sexuality?
Like I said, like a lot of people don't understand it, so I don't know. It's like it's both finding a partner, that's hard for anyone as it is, especially, I mean, luckily I found my partner before the pandemic hit, but especially in a pandemic, especially the whole reason I was on Tinder, I was like, how do people meet now? 'Cause I don't understand. And I worked at Chick-fil-A, so there was mostly high school students and some college students, but not very many. And then I started working at the place where I'm working now, and I was like, yeah, there's not really any guys here that I'm interested in. And my current boyfriend was actually working at the same company but a different location, and then he got transferred to our location.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we never would have met if he hadn't been transferred. So, but yeah, I think finding a partner is hard for anybody, but then especially on top of trying to explain that I'm demisexual. And
Right.
especially, I think, in college, there was a lot of people that were looking for hookups, which is fine. Not fine for me, but it's fine for other people.
Right.
But then, and I know sometimes, like, the hookups would lead into a relationship, but that just wasn't an option for me.
Yeah,
So,
no. Yeah, I get that.
And then, I don't know if this has anything to do with my sexuality or not, but I also have kind of, like, a lower sex drive. So,
yeah,
that can
so
be difficult, too.
Yeah. But yeah, that could be related or not. But like we learned with 3-month Joe, some people are more understanding than others.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was a lot of fun. It was nice that we get to have this.
Oh, wait,
thing.
I want one more story.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Because I just remembered. Way back when, before we had our channel.
Oh, yeah.
And just in the SDC server, and I was telling the story about how my mom's coworker was trying to set me up with a cashier.
I remember this saga.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
It was, I don't even remember who it was. It was my mom's coworker's daughter-in-law's something. I don't know. It was like so many degrees of separation. And she tried to set me up with this guy. She was like, oh, she's so nice. She needs a boyfriend. And I was like, okay, lady, who are you? And so she gave me his number and gave my number to him. And he texted. And we were supposed to go on a date. And he was like, hey, and I said hi. And he was like, so do you want to go on this date? And I said, not really. And he said, yeah, me neither. And I was like, okay, bye. So, and then he did try to text me again, and I just never answered because I was like, no. And
we were at a united front on this, sir.
But yeah, in the Discord server, I was keeping everyone updated, and it's probably still a pinned comment in that server, right? Where,
maybe. Yeah.
I was like, said something about the guy texting me or whatever. Or I saw his picture and you were like, you got really excited about it. And you were like, oh, are you gonna go on a date and it's gonna be the best time and you're gonna get married? And I was like, he's not my type at all. And you were like, oh.
I do remember that. Very us.
Very us.
Okay, well, this was fun.
It was just...
Yeah, no, that was...
This video... I feel like this video has just been me talking about all of my past relationships.
I mean, kinda, yeah, that was the point, sort of. But, yeah, no, I'm glad that we got to do this. And hopefully, like, it's just good to help with just bringing demisexuality more into the light. And also, I think it was just fun because we don't, like, we talk about, like, movies we like and don't like more. But, like, I think it's fun that we got to do this and get to know you more.
Yeah, I think, and like I said, with wanting to kind of spread the word about it, and I pretty much tell everyone that will listen.
Yeah.
I've actually heard of some people have told me, like, oh yeah, my brother is demisexual, but he didn't know what it was until you told me what it was. And I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I think
really cool.
If other people are identifying with this but don't know it yet, because I know I was really sad and felt like something was wrong with me because everybody else around me seemed so normal, and I really felt ostracized from the whole group. So yeah,
no,
I want people to be aware, I guess, of
so
different sexualities.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm glad that you've been able to, like, help people in your real life. That's really cool. Yeah, so we're just sort of wanted to do this as, like, a starter to just sort of have, like, conversations where we're just, like, asking stuff in good faith. And if you have any suggestions for other stuff for us to talk about, or if you want to talk about anything we brought up here, you know, leave a comment, join our Discord again. Please.
Please join our Discord.
Yes, like, we need it. Okay, yeah, so that's that. And on that note, remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Happy Pride Month.
Oh, yeah.